Sydney. A bill to change the rules on carrying guns into the Nebraska Capitol passed the first of 3 rounds of voting today.
While Nebraska law allows anyone to concealed carry without a permit in most places, this bill would require people with concealed weapons at the Capitol to have certification and ban open carry at the Capitol. Originally, LB 1237 banned anyone except law enforcement and people with prior approval from walking into the Capitol with a gun. If passed, this bill, the Nebraska State Patrol plans to implement new procedures for the Capitol by the start of next year.
The Ponca tribe of